So I have a suggestion that we start. We'll try and multitask it as much as possible. Another thing is that I am not going to be the one who's going to answer all the questions. In as much as I would love to know everything, I actually don't really know everything, right? But whatever knowledge that I have in my head, I'm going to share it with you guys and see how far we can take it. So when we tackle each question, anybody can answer. Anybody, please feel free to raise your hand and then we answer, right? Cool. Alright, but I think the best place to start is just on a point that Nell mentioned and how, you know, just how involved your knowledge is, how involved your education is, how involved your psychology is related to spending money. It's everything. How you think about money, how you view money pretty much determines how you're going to spend money. If you have seen your parents save quite a lot of money, the probability is that it's in you to actually save a lot of money. There's a lot of value in knowing that, and the thing is, you can even trace it back. Think about how your parents view money, think about how your parents spend money on a daily basis, right? Do they get a salary in the beginning of the month and then by the end of the month it's fully spent, right? Do they talk to kids about money? Do they tell them about the issues that they have, or they just tell you that, oh, I actually don't have money, right? Those are the little things that affect, that's how you know what things you need to avoid in future, right? Because every single thing, when I say everything related to how you spend comes from somewhere, your environment, the people you hang out with every single day. For example, if the married people at Hilltop Church of Christ have a BMW and up, right? Chances are, the moment you get married, you will be influenced enough in order to get a BMW and up, right? Have you noticed how consistent the parking lot is? Huh? I'm serious. Have you ever noticed how consistent the parking lot is, right? Do you know that you can actually take a range to say that all cars in the parking lot cost between 200,000 and 500,000 rand? That's the amount of influence that you guys have on each other right now, right? Nobody's going to buy, you know, a Toyota Aygo, even though there's a Toyota Aygo outside, right? If you think you are on this level, you're going to spend on this level. It's that simple. That's how much the psychology and your background and everything affects it. And the only thing, not really the only thing, the best thing that can actually sort that part out is education, is knowing what the financial consequences of each decision will be. Alright, let's start on the question. Okay, one person asked the question, I as a student currently, I need to save. Should I start saving now as a student, or should I pretty much wait till later when I start earning money for me to save? Anybody can take it.
I think the advice that I can give to her, I'm just trying to answer, is that having a behavior of saving is not something that just you're born with. It's something that you learn, that you teach yourself. And I think if you teach yourself from being a student, when you get into the working world, it will be easy for you to do it. For some of us, we had to learn very late how to save. And while learning, we're making a lot of mistakes while saving. Like you'll save to 3 months down the line, still use the same money that you saved. So it's very important that you actually start learning how to save. That's why sometimes some parents teaches kids to save money while they're still young, so that they actually get that whole habit in them, and then they don't have to learn it later on from bad mistakes.
I just wanted to say this as part of this because I don't know where I'm fitting in, but when you're a student, it's also good to save, but also to give to the Lord. Because I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but when you start working and you don't have the habit of giving to God, something always comes up. And then when you don't give, something always gets messed up with your finances. Next thing you don't know where the money went. It's very weird. So as much as you build the habit of saving now, also build the habit of giving to God now as part of your good money practices.
Okay, so I think one of the things that I would have loved to, okay, not would have loved to know, because I think so many people told me to do before then, was to save before I even start working. I think a lot of people told me that, and I decided to, have a stubborn head, as far as I've said, and I just did it, right? And it's not necessarily because it was going to give me more money in the end. I wish even just, I had a habit of saving just $20 every single month, right? And just putting it away, and not having the prospect of actually spending it at some point. I wish somebody had forced me to do that, because the thing is, the moment that you have access to the money that you're earning when you start working, you create issues that do not exist, and you create financial decisions to sort those issues out, right? And then to a point where it gets to a point where you are on zero every single month and you're just managing that money. And if your habit to save was built soon enough, that could have helped quite a lot. Consensus around the room, I bet you on that one would be start saving now. It doesn't matter how much it is. And build the habit of not saving and then 2 months later taking it and then going and spend it. Right? Just long-term save for nothing, pretty much. That's going to build a very good habit. Any other takes on that one? Any other? No. Cool, perfect. Secondly, giving to God, especially before you even start working. Oh, I promise you there's nothing. I think it got to a point that I'm going to be very open about my financial decisions and pretty much where that took me, right, in my learning. Was it got to a point, I think, in my first year of working where I just, when things were rough, the first money to go away was my giving at church. Always. Without fail. And it was because I hadn't built a habit of giving consistently. Right? So much so that my financial thing right now has changed so much so that it's giving first, save second, and then everything else will react to it. And that's another thing that you need to understand about money, is that there will be good times and there will be bad times. And both are okay, right? But as long as the basics are there. Give first, save second, and everything else will react. And the good thing about it is that you've seen on months that things are bad. You will be left with 100 rands in your account with 10 days to go. And you will make it work because you don't have a choice, right? The same principle pretty much works in the same place. If you have 10,000 rand for the rest of the month and it's the beginning of the month, you will find a plan to make it work. I think that's another good thing that human beings have, is that they have the ability to adapt to situations. And if it means you going to ShopRite and buying, ShopRite groceries instead of Woolies groceries, you're going to do that. If it means you selling your expensive car and actually buying another car, that's what it means, right? You will react. I promise you, it's a very good principle to do. Even right now, let's assume you are really drowning in debt. You need to make sure that you have enough money to service the debt that you have. But try and put in that principle of giving first, saving second, and paying your debts third, and then everything else afterwards. You'll be amazed on the decisions that you can make in order to make your life cheap. Cool. Alright. Happy on that one? So I assume no question on that, right? Okay. What is the best investment for somebody that is young? It's a very difficult question, right? And I think it's difficult because there's actually not a best investment for somebody that's young. Okay, I'll start taking it from the floor first before I give you my very big opinion on this. Anybody What are the investments that you guys have actually invested in when you were young and it actually helped? What are the things that worked?
I think your wife put it very well earlier to say that, you know, it depends on what are you trying to achieve, what is it that you are, where are you trying to go, you know, because as she said, it was like, you can buy a house now and find that you're spending all your money on a house and you now can't travel and that kind of a thing. So it's pretty much a matter of you looking at your own situation and identifying what you are trying to achieve. What is it that you want to do? Do you want to travel the world before you're 30, or do you want to save your first, to save yourself into your first million before you're 30? So depending on which you want to do, the answer to that will be very different as to what you're saving.
I think I'm going to answer it focusing on the part where she said when you are young. So I'm assuming that it could be someone who's like university, still going to start to work. So I would say that get a savings account and save, but you don't have a goal for that account. Like you're not saving for anything. So that will help you to grow a habit of saving.
I think for me, what I would advise is there's a platform that's called Easy Equities. I don't know if anyone mentioned it. Yeah. But the best thing about Easy Equities is the fact that you can actually buy shares and you don't have to pay the full price. Like if I want to buy, I think the most expensive share I know is the Naspers share. It's like above 1,000 rand, but I only have 100 rand. You can still buy it, a piece of the share with your 100 rand if it's available. And at least that will still be growing at the same pace as the actual full share. But you have to put the money in. And they also have ETFs. They also have tax-free savings account. Like it's one of the best platforms I've ever found. And there's no charges for it. Like to an extent where it's very easy for students to do it, because with other platforms you have to pay the, what are these guys called? Stockbrokers and those people. But with this, they only charge you like, the fees are very small, like it's minimal. Like to an extent that, guys, if you have 5 rand, you can buy something there. So I'd advise Easy Equities as a very nice platform to start.
Okay. My answer to that, I think the best investment that anybody can make when they're young is actually to get financial knowledge. And yeah, get financial knowledge. And by getting financial knowledge is understanding the consequences of each decision that you're going to make financially. Perfect way to illustrate it, right? Taking Puru's point right on that is, if you understand how your life is going to be for the next year and what you like to see in your life for the next year, your financial decisions need to go in that direction. But before you even make a commitment whatsoever to that direction, you need to understand what are the financial consequences for each thing. For example, in my first year of working, I think for the first 6 months I didn't have a car, right? But I work at a job that requires you to move from client to client on a very unusual basis. So for me, even if a car is a depreciating asset, right? For me, a car was an asset to me. I don't know if that makes sense. So whether I liked it or not, I needed a car. So now that I know that I need a car, what should I take into consideration in order for me to get the best out of that car, right? And the best thing was that I had somebody that I could pretty much, bounce off ideas with. And that person told me, get the most cheapest car that's going to give you the freedom of not fixing it on the usual. So I had a what do you call it? I had a mental model around cars where I only buy new cars, because during that first 3-4 years, I'm covered on my service plan, even though I'm paying for it, but I'm covered on that. I'm covered on my warranty. If something goes wrong, I'm covered on my maintenance plan, I'm covered on that. So anything goes wrong within this, I'm not going to pay anything extra, right? If I got a second-hand car, then I'd have to put money aside for that, right? So if all of these things, if you knew exactly what it would mean for your life, if a house, what a house actually means in your life, and the levies and the rates and taxes, and because I actually hear this thing where people equate the rent that you're going to receive, that it's going to cover your bond. Actually, if you check, there's a 25% gap between what your rent is and how much you actually really pay on the bond on a monthly basis. That's the industry average on that. So your rent will cover 75% of the cost. You will still cover the other 25% and cover costs for exactly where you stay already. So it's a decision that you need to make. Best investment, know your money, understand money, or get somebody who understands money and who's actually going to build a path for you, right? But let's go into specific little investments that is available to you to invest. One, you have your normal savings account. That will pretty much give you, on average, between 1 and 3% interest every single month, right? Honestly speaking, that is the most useful saving account in my life, right? Because anytime that I feel bored, I can pretty much just transfer money into it or transfer money out of it, right? It's not the most reliable, but it's useful in that anytime that I feel like, okay, I think I might have this money I don't want to spend this month. What I do is I just move it into a different account. And I think the best thing about it is that FNB has this thing where you can rename the account. And I call mine the do not touch account, right? So when you transfer it into the do not touch account, if I touch it, then I know, oh, it's a do not touch account, if that makes sense, right? So that's available to you. You're not going to get a return that's over inflation. Inflation is pretty much around it's bouncing between 4.9% to around 5.5% currently, right? You need to beat inflation because the value of your money is going down. Does everybody understand the concept of inflation and how your money loses value if you do not invest in something? Or should I explain that? Yeah, okay, cool. Right, so let's take a cell phone, right? Today, an iPhone will be 50,000 rands, right? You have 15,000 rands in your pocket, so you can afford it today, right? Tomorrow, a new iPhone comes out, the old iPhone pretty much disappears, so you don't have access to pay for that old iPhone, right? So if the only iPhones in the world are worth 15,800 rands because of inflation, the price of the goods has increased, then you have 15,000 rand. It means you do not afford it anymore. Make sense? No? Yes? Should I explain further? Prices are going up, whether we like it or not. So, if you want to be in the same position in terms of your lifestyle, the money that you're receiving has to pretty much move up at the same rate. I think that's as clear as I can put it. That's the effect of inflation on that. So, yeah, I lost my original thought, but yeah. So it's that. Savings account, that's what you have. There are no consequences, maybe bank charges depending on what you have selected. There are no consequences of moving your money around, right? So the only issue with that one is you can easily access your money, and if something is easily available to you, you're going to misuse it. It's that simple. You see it in everything. Yeah. So it's not the best place to say it. Secondly, you have your limit-based accounts, right? Your 32 days notice, your 6-month fixed deposit, right? So all it is this, right? Banks use your money, whether you like it or not, the money that's in your account currently, in order to invest in stuff that they know will make a bigger return. That's why they give you 3%, but the loan is worth 30%, right? So that's how it works. So all it is the moment you give them a 10 to say, I want to withdraw my money in the next 6 months, they can take that money, make a return. Because they can do that, they are in a position to actually come up to you and say, we can give you a higher interest rate than in a normal savings account. Because if you want your money on a savings account, you can just go take it. But on this one, there will be financial consequences for taking it earlier, right? So the rate will be pretty much around 4% to around 6%, usually for fixed deposit, unless you're going for a really high amount. The higher your amount, the bigger the interest rate that they can actually give you back. The longer the period, the bigger the interest rate that they can actually give you back, right? So you have access to that. The only thing with that is always be sure that you're going to withdraw your money out when that 10 is over. Is that simple? Right? But the good thing, I think, right now, financial products that are there are flexi-fixed deposits where you have the option to withdraw your money 2 times, and I think there's like a percentage that you can actually withdraw. So that helps if there's an emergency or something. So stuff that relates to an emergency, please do not put it into a fixed term type account, because you're going to withdraw it before time and you're going to pay hefty bank charges for it. Cool. Makes sense, right? Right? Yes? No? Perfect. Right. Then we go on to money market accounts, right? Money market accounts is what banks will invest in, is that they take your money and invest it in, very highly liquid debt instruments, right? Or investments that they know they're going to get their money back, right? That money market investments will usually yield around 7 to 8% interest, so that's over inflation, and that's usually over and above that, right? There's just a couple of fees that you need to pay for, and those are usually upfront fees, but there is no consequence of actually withdrawing at any time from that investment. So it's quite a good flexible way of investing your money in a high-ish interest without charges of withdrawing out, right? Moving on, then you got something called unit trusts, right? Something that Chigezi was saying, I think you were saying something relating to that, right? ETFs, all that. So, unit trust is an investment manager, for example, Investec or Allen Gray or whatever, right? Will pretty much purchase shares in bulk, right? Of different companies and put them into one little product that you can buy a share in. For example, they take all the top 40 companies in South Africa, buy shares and all of that, and then put it as a top 40 unit trust that you can invest in. So what that gives you is that you have the chance to invest in part of the share that grows with the top 40 companies in South Africa, right? It's quite reliable. The only thing about it is that the fees, I don't like the way they structure the fees, because immediately when you invest, they take their money out, right? So you pay them a management fee every single month. If they give you a very good return at the end of the year, then they take a performance fee out of that too, right? But at the same time, they make money only when you make money type. So it kind of works out. But they make money even if you don't make money. So that's another thing with the management fee, right? But all it is just investing in a collection of shares put into one little product called a unit trust, right? You can invest in shares. What you can do is you can open a stockbroking account with any bank whatsoever. Right? So pretty much it's any bank, or you can actually do it directly with, I just forgot the name, not straight. There's a specific name that of a node that connects to the JSE that you can actually purchase shares from, right? There is an admin fee that you need to pay in order to access that. And secondly, there's always little brokerage fees or transaction fees that you're going to pay with that. But they're quite minimal. But at the same time, if you know that one share is actually going to increase in price and you trust this company, you can invest in it. The only thing about that is that it's considered a high-risk investment. The reason why it's considered a high-risk investment is that you can lose your money. For example, let's go into Steinhoff, right? And the consequences of that. Steinhoff was let's call it a AAA rated company in South Africa, saying that it's one of those big companies that has their governance well, they do really well in terms of their results, and most of the government pension funds were invested in Steinhoff, right? Because Steinhoff is a good company, making good value, pretty much has stockbrokers all over the world, so that's how it is. One scandal which they showed that they were falsifying their results, reduced their stock price to quite a minimal thing. So much so that we're talking around, 20 to 30 billion rands was wiped out in terms of value. So that means that pretty much our parents' pension funds were wiped out by that amount. But at the same time, if your parents are invested in that, that means that probably your company is invested your pension funds in that too. So most people would have even checked their pension funds to see what the effect of Steinhoff could be on their pension funds. It reduced a whole lot of your money if you didn't know. It was that bad. If you owed 100%, let's assume you put in 100,000 into shares and Steinhoff. After the scandal, you'd pretty much be sitting with around 20,000 rands related to that. That's the risk of shares. It's high risk in that anything, if President Zuma decides to come back as president, guess what's happening to the share price of whatever you've invested in? It goes down, right? Hence why some people actually invest overseas, and that's just how they do that, right? Another thing that's available to you is a retirement annuity or provident fund, right, investment, which relates to long-term, just your long-term investment, right? At some point you are going to retire, especially age of 65, age of 60. Most people do not prepare for that because they don't believe that actually going to live that long until God surprises them and they're still there, right? That one thing that one old man who was retiring, that used to mentor me on something else relating to something, was he told me when I started working at FNB that put as much money as you can into your retirement. And I didn't understand what that meant, but I think at this point I'm pretty much I'm very big on that. And the reason for that is this, right? I think the sad thing about it is that you can't really get, at some point the law is going to change and you can't get a full 100% of your pension out because you get 3% and then pretty much the rest is an annuity. It's an amount that you get on a monthly basis. So that's the only thing that's not nice about the way that it's going to be. But at the same time, it's quite important that you put as much money away for your retirement as possible. Because when you get to 65, and you do a valuation on that, and you find out that when you're 65, the value of your pension fund is sitting at around 4 million rands, right? Take 4 million, that's not going to grow anymore. Take 4 million and then just divide that by 12, right? To see how many years of income you actually have. Compare that to the amount of money you're spending on a monthly basis. If that is not matching up, there's a huge problem. When you move jobs, try not to take out of your pension fund because you will need that money at some point. That makes it. That's just something that. But you can actually, get a provident fund in order to boost that. Or what you can do is, right now, go to your HR and just ask them to give you a dummy pay slip if you actually increase the pension contribution by, let's say, 2.5%. 3%, 7%, everything. Just find different dummy pay slips on that. What you are going to find is that your net doesn't change that much because the more you increase your pension fund, the more your tax decreases. It's a very weird concept. I promise it's brilliant. See if I had the numbers one day, I wish I still had that spreadsheet where it actually shows you exactly if you increase your pension fund by 7.5%, your net doesn't change that much. So you're actually saving more at a reduced cost, which means that you're pretty much going to be in the same place. But before you actually do that, talk to somebody who pretty much has the exact numbers of what you're going to pay. I promise you, it will be the best thing you can ever do for yourself. Then you can actually just save more for the future and pretty much still earn this very same amount of money. Simple, right? Is there anything else that I'm missing? Right. There's a lot of risky investments that you can actually do too, right? Let's go into Bitcoin for a second, right? I know a couple of people here are invested in Bitcoin, and what that is. One, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get what drives the value of Bitcoin up and what drives the value of Bitcoin down, right? One thing that I actually do agree with post a presentation that we once had on Bitcoin is that cryptocurrency is a very valid way of creating value in money. Financially, it's a very valid way of doing it. It's just that now you need to trust into that system. We trust a government system which really does not, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, you can pretty much go to South Africa. Like, you know, sometimes our value of money increases and decreases because of who's president and who's not, right? For me, I'm still very skeptical in my own personal capacity in that I can't invest in something that I don't understand. And I think it's going to be consistent like that going forward. But I know people that have invested in Bitcoin and invested in other cryptocurrencies, which there's a million of them, have actually gotten quite a whole lot of value out of it. But please do me a favor, before you do any of that, please go and find out exactly how it works. What drives the value up, what drives the value down? Then you can predict and remove your money in time, or you can pretty much put it in at a time where it's going to pick it up, right? Forex, oh, I love Forex traders. I really, really love Forex traders, right? And the reason why I love Forex traders is that Forex is literally gambling, right? You have certain things that are there that will try and predict exactly what's going to happen, right? For example, if you know that the ANC elections are coming up, then you can predict who's going to be president, and based on who you think is going to be president, then you can, then you can pretty much buy dollars or sell dollars, right? Knowing what the consequences of that is. It's really high. It's really high risk in that you are trying to predict what's going to happen in the future and what effect it's going to have on the different currencies. Because all it is today the rand is sitting at 15 rand, and then tomorrow you think that the rand will sit in at 15.20, right? Then what you do is you buy rands today and you sell them tomorrow. That's all it is, right? But what you need to take into consideration is that the ability to lose your money is very high, right? And if you lose it, it's pretty much gone. But you can make it back, but you can lose it again. There's a whole lot of very good software out there that's there to assist you in predicting it. And the thing is, the whole concept of Forex is that people are trying to mimic what the big banks are doing, for example, right? Big banks have to hedge quite a lot of things in the business. For example, they need to buy licenses in USD, so they pretty much have to hedge quite a lot of them. Secondly, there's a trading division within every single bank where they trade in Forex. But the advantage that they have is that they take $1 billion, right? $1 billion rands, right? And they trade with that amount of money. So if they actually, buy, if they actually buy a whole lot of dollars and the price of the rand to the USD increases by 1 cent, right? They can actually make 100,000 profit. So they just buy and sell very short, very quickly, and pretty much just realize profits in that. It works best when you have a lot of money, right? In that the returns are higher, but at the same time, even when you have a lot of money, your losses can be high. So you need to be okay with using everything that you invest when you're doing Forex. Please just be okay with losing everything. I'm not discouraging anybody to do it, guys. It's people that are making quite good returns on Forex. But you need to understand exactly how it works and what affects that. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I'm trying to think. Triple M, or everything, all of that?
Life insurance versus...
Okay, cool. Perfect. Still another question. Right. Life insurance. Okay, let's start with covering yourself, right? I am a very big advocate for getting insurance. Insure everything that you need to pay for in future if you go to lose it. You can't drive a car in South Africa and it's not insured. Unless if that car were to be in a wreck, you don't have to pay for it. Makes sense, right? Like, if you are okay with losing that, for example, I'm okay with losing my phone right now because I'm not paying for it anymore, so it's not going to be like a huge financial consequence, so I'm not going to pay insurance on something that I'm okay with losing. But the issue with the car in South Africa is that if you hit somebody else and it's your fault, you are going to pay for that person's car, right? I don't like this faith-based teaching recently that people need to stop. If you trust in God, you can't buy insurance. Guys, just get insurance. Don't ask for it. I promise you, you're going to regret it, right? So that's just how it is, right? I believe in covering yourself for everything that if you lose, you want to replace it back, right? Anything that you want to lose, that if you're going to lose, you need to get finances in order to pay it back. Your household items. If you own the house, please just insure a house because anything can happen. The next door neighbor can pretty much start a fire and walk away. Your house gets burned. Guess what happens? You need to pay for your house. Either way. So you need household insurance. Your household items, for example, stuff like laptops, cell phones. Guys, you live in South Africa. These things happen on a daily basis. People steal, right? If people are going to have a chance of stealing that, find out exactly what's the best way to insure your assets, right? And the best way to do it, I promise you, the best way to find out who to insure with, at what terms, whatever, is actually by talking to each other and finding out how each person has insured that. Because I have one insurer for my car and a different insurer for this and a different insurer for that and a different insurer for several little things that are there. And it's because, for me, price to get the very same service is big. Another thing is that some insurers have this consolidated thing that if you insure everything with me, I'll give you a 20% discount on everything. But for me, it's just shop for insurance everywhere, right? Let it rather take 3, 4, 5 days in order to do that, right? Household items, if you married, your rings, if you are, what do you call it? If you love sneakers, guys, just insure your sneakers because somebody might just come up to you with a gun and just say, hey, I need your sneakers. If you need to replace those, insure it, right? There's an insurance available for you to do that. But understand what you're getting from your insurance. Please, I can't keep it that enough. One, for example, if you're insuring a car, you need to insure it at the highest value possible, which is usually the retail value, right? If you insure it at market value, they'll give you back the market value of your car. You just need to know what the consequences are, right? If you are not going to replace it with a new car, and you're going to replace it with a second-hand, similar car, right? Then probably you will insure it on the market value because you just need the market value back, right? But if you want to be placed back in the same position that you were, you need to insure it on the retail value. Understanding what it means, comprehensive cover versus, limited cover versus all of that. How does your access work versus that? I'm not going to go into those details, but please, those are the things that you guys need to be dealing with, right? Moving on from short-term insurance to, what do you call it? Let's start with disability, like permanent disability cover. Quite important. And I think that's the one thing that how to put this, we ignore, or dread disease cover, right? Is that if it gets to a point where you are diagnosed with a dread disease like cancer or something, they will pay you out a lump sum, right? That's just how it works. If you get diagnosed with the same disease, probably you will just need to go to the doctor and pretty much use your medical aid on that. Sometimes the medical aid won't pay, so that money may help you and stuff like that. Permanent disability is you get a lump sum if you are involved in an accident and you're permanently disabled, whether it's your eye, whether it's your leg or anything, and it gets to a point where you can't work for a certain period, then that's what you're insuring against. You're insuring against something bad happening to you. Because some things, for example, let's assume I work in construction and I need both limbs in order to work. And something happens when I'm at home and then I get hurt. Guess what happens? That cover pretty much assist me financially. Life insurance is, if I die, then you are going to pay out into my estate. You are going to pay out into my estate, which will be pretty much whatever my beneficiaries are, a certain amount of money. $1 million, $2 million, all of that. It doesn't matter how much it is, it depends on how much you do. So all it is, you're insuring against your debt. Because your dependents, currently, it's your salary and let's assume your wife's salary that pretty much runs the household. If you are no longer there, that means probably they need to move out because they can't afford the same lifestyle that you guys used to have before you died. So that actually helps. I think it's quite important, right? It's really important in that that's the best, one of the best tools in order to preserve wealth within your family. Right, in that if somebody dies, at least you have quite a big lump sum in order to assist you in that, right? But the thing about it is, I'll keep saying this, please shop for your insurances. And another thing is that do it on an annual basis, because you will get the very same cover for half of the amount that you pay on a monthly basis, just because you are not shopping with anybody else. And the good thing is that insurance companies have realized that, so what they're doing now is they have stuff like your out bonus for your life insurance. If you stay without insurance for 15 years continuously, you will get the full value of your, of your premiums that you've paid, right? So they try to keep you guys in the system for a very long time. So that's stuff that they actually do. Funeral cover. If somebody dies in your family, right, in order for you to assist you with the funeral costs, then that's what they're going to pay out. It's usually between 50 to 100,000 that's going to be paid out. But I actually discovered a very interesting scheme that I had to look at recently. Right? And I think it was from one of the conversations we were having with the guys after church one day about how funeral covers are getting smarter with this thing. You insure your parent, right, for 50,000 and say, if my parent passes away, I actually need 50,000. You guys need to pay me 50,000 because I'll probably need to contribute 50,000 to the family in order to assist with the funeral stuff, right? Now, all it is, for example, let's assume F&B and, I'm just looking for, F&B and XYZ company, right? Underwritten. I'll explain what underwritten is, right? So all it is my insurer is insured by this. So when somebody passes away, my F&B needs to pay me, right, for my loss, right? But at the same time, F&B needs to be paid, but let's assume Holland is the underwriter, right? F&B needs to pay, Holland needs to pay F&B pays me. Makes sense, right? Now, if the same underwriter is on XYZ company, right? So if somebody else, let's assume Alu insures my parents' death too, right? And they need to pay me out. And he has done the very same thing at 50,000 rands. What they do is, if you have the same underwriter, they take that 150,000 that they actually plan on paying out and divide it between the two people. If it's 10 people that have, if it's 10 people that have insured it, if there's 10 people that have insured under the very same company, your parents, right? Then they are actually just going to pay you 2,000 rand, not 2,000, 5,000 rand each. So that's something that you kind of have to be careful in, that you need to know who the underwriter is, right? Because you guys, everybody as a family might just insure the very same person in the very same place, and the terms and conditions on that are not necessarily clear. So you need to really read and understand exactly what it means. So just go and give a call to whoever you have your insurance policies, your funeral policies with. Just understand exactly what happens if we have the same underwriter and several people. Will you still pay me the full amount, or will you pay me a divided amount between all the beneficiaries that have insurance under the policy? Make sense? Make sense? Cool. Alright. So, very important. For example, funerals on average in South Africa will cost you around 100,000 rand. Right? Yes, you know how it goes. You have people over for a week that need to eat. You have people over and you need to buy a tombstone and you need to buy, you know, a very nice box. All of those things need to be paid for. If you are not ready for that, you're going to see quite a whole lot of you know, you're going to see flames on the day that you need to assist in paying for a funeral. So it helps. All insurance covers are there to assist, but you need to understand the consequences of each contract and what it means the day that you need to pay. So much so that you guys need to make sure that when you are agreeing to the terms and conditions of this, you have asked every question under the sun in order to understand these things. Especially the funeral policy one, I didn't know that until somebody was like, hey, do you know that they're actually doing this? And when I looked into it, it's actually there. It's just plain in the agreement. Very complicated language, but you'll never understand exactly what it means. Because in the end, you pay for 50,000 rand cover and you get 50,000 rand back. That sucks. Okay, cool. So we dealt with investments that are available to you and the policies that are, and the insurances that are available, right? What is the best budgeting tool? This one I'd like to open it down to everybody, right? Because mine won't. I'll give you a couple of little, you know, very cool things to actually do with your accounts. But I think it would be good for everybody to actually contribute to this. And what's working for you every month relating to your budget? How do you guys track it? What's the best way to do it? Anybody? Because I think, okay, let me just start with me and maybe you guys can be, you know, comfortable enough to talk about this. Currently, what my wife and I are doing is we track it on an Excel spreadsheet, which actually means that every single transaction you need to swipe for. It's that simple, right? I think the world caters for that you can swipe for pretty much everything. So it's easy for us to just pull out our transaction listing and just pretty much put, you know, what we thought we would spend and what we spent and what is actually creating the variances on a monthly basis. We know exactly how much is going to, you know, our debit orders, we know how much is going to stuff that we have committed to, and then everything else that we can play around with based on how busy the month is, how much we want to travel or whatever. So that's the budgeting tool I currently use, right? I think Standard Bank has 27.4, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, right? An app that actually takes all the transactions within your bank statement, and there's quite a lot of apps that are available to you for that, right? And all you do is just map transactions. For example, when you see the code for Woolworths, then just map it to groceries. This, that, and that. And all you do is just go to the app and you're able to get a full picture of exactly what you're spending and where you're spending it. So it does the budgeting for you. You can actually, on some of the apps that are quite advanced, you can actually put limits to certain spending. So much so that when you go to Woolies and you've got 500 rands left of your remaining budget, when you swipe for it and you're paying for 600 rands, it actually declines the transactions and says it's over budget. So that's a very good budgeting tool to actually help you with that. So guys, apps are there to assist you. Please read the terms and conditions of the apps, because some people are actually taking that data that you spend 1,000 rand every month on gadgets, and the next thing you'll just see 5 advertisements on your Facebook account each time you go in on gadgets, and hey, you need to spend that. So just read up on the privacy details of that, right? Yeah, so I think those are quite useful tools for that. I track it on an Excel spreadsheet because this is who I am. Some people use apps, which are brilliant, but I don't trust the data that goes with the apps. Yeah, so anybody else using a very cool budgeting tool that they want to share? Some people withdraw full money and then that's their budget. Like whatever they do, they pay in cash and that's it. Anybody, any other budgeting tool? No? Nothing? Okay, cool. Please always budget every single month because it actually gives you a very good platform to know exactly where you are, right? Oh yeah, perfect. and it actually goes into exactly what I'm going to be talking about. So, lucky us, right? What would be the advice for somebody who has been employed for a while, has made the wrong decisions, and then now they want to recover? I've been there so many times. You know how many times I had to recover financially? Quite a lot. And I think that's another thing that you need to understand, maybe, let's start on money, right? Is that at most 90% of the time it's you are recovering, right? Then you have got like, 10% of the time where you are, oh, I'm actually in a very good financial position, and then something else goes down, right? I'm not the only person that goes through that, right? Okay, cool, perfect, right? So if you understand that that is the norm, to a certain point you kind of need to be, not be okay with being in a bad state, but understand that it's something that's normal when it comes to money. It actually does vary like that. You are pretty much down in the gutters and then it's good, and then sometimes it goes bad. Be okay with it, because the moment you're okay with it, then you can actually make, good decisions going forward. Secondly, always find out exactly where you are, and understand exactly where you are. Understand what is going into your money every single month, right? What is something that you have committed to that you cannot uncommit? For example, you still need a house, right? You still need a car, you still need this, you still need that. Babies still need to go to school, this, that, and that. There are certain things that cannot move, but you need to be able to see it. And then understand exactly what can move, and then after you understand what can move, then you can make changes to that. One thing that has really helped over the years is to consistently not upgrade your life when your income has been upgraded. Simple. Very difficult thing to do, but quite one of the best things ever. If you want to recover financially, stop upgrading your life. Stop getting a new car, stop getting this, stop getting that. Let's just keep it flat. Right, stop upgrading your life, right? And keep it simple. When you get a bonus, you pretty much keep it the same. Don't get any new financial commitments, don't get any new whatever. And I promise you it's difficult because even before anybody has access to the money, and you know it's not coming. For example, if I were to ask you right now, do you know, if I were to give you 50,000 rand right now, you already have 5 different places in your head that you know you're going to spend it at, right? That's exactly what happens when you actually get that money. So now the thing is, how do you actually stop that? You just keep it consistent. And another thing is that there's always a cheaper alternative to what you're trying to achieve with anything. Always a cheaper alternative. And I think the only time that I saw it was with when I changed cars. And if you were to talk to my wife on that, she will tell you it wasn't a very easy process. I had to fight so many battles within myself just to get to a point where I need to downgrade my car, right? And the thing about it is, the car needs to move on function, right? One, function for me means it needs to look good, right? Maybe it's a guy thing, right? Like it needs to look, that's a function for a car, right? So I want a car that actually looks good. I don't know, maybe social capital, maybe it's issues that I have as a child, who knows? But that's just what is important to me, right? Secondly, it needs to be able to carry a bike, because pretty much I go everywhere with that thing, right? Thirdly, it needs to have sufficient space, because one thing I used to hate about my old Toyota Aygo was there wasn't space for anything. Sometimes we'd pack things to a point where, you'd have to be like, okay, we need to remove things out just so the car can actually move. That's just how bad it was, right? So for me, those were the 3 important things that I needed to do, right? So if that's the function, what are the options that are available to me in order to make that happen on a very cheap level, right? For example, one thing that one of the guys that I used to cycle with told me about is, stop buying big cars, right, for the space, because pretty much that's what it is. Like, you have more luggage space, you have all of this. Buy a small car. After buying a small car, put in roof bars, which will cost you around 8,000 rands, and buy a roof box, right? It's like additional luggage compartment that goes on top of the roof, right? That will pretty much cost you another 7,000, 8,000 rands, right? So it's taking decisions like that. You are going to save long term, 5 years into the future, on paying installments on a very expensive car for the space, and you're replacing that saving with a 40,000 rand spend with more luggage that goes on top of your car, if that makes sense. So you start taking those weird little decisions. For example, if you buy a phone and you need certain functionalities within it, what do? Buy a cheaper version of it that can still give you the same functionalities as that one. It's that simple. There's always a cheaper alternative for everything. Your car. If you need to downgrade your car and you know that it's too expensive, do the numbers first. Don't just sell your car and then buy another car. Because probably you're not really left with that much amount of money for you to be selling a car. It might actually be more expensive to downgrade a car because it takes you back to the same position. So you need to do the sums and see, can I suffer for an additional year, right, paying a higher installment and then afterwards that whole installment stops? Or should I actually downgrade the car right now? Makes sense. All of those little things cumulatively, making sure that the value of 1 rand is equal to 1 rand, and making sure that when it's time to save on anything, just save on anything. All those little 1 rands actually accumulate into something that's worth seeing on your bank statement. So it's that. Sorry, let me just check if there's any more questions. Right. Okay, cool. I'm just going to go into financial advisors, life cover we've done, good credit score. Okay, cool. Financial advisors. Financial advisors, right? Best people in the world in order to understand, right, your finances. But please understand that, for example, if you get a Standard Bank financial advisor, he's going to sell you Standard Bank products, right? They actually get paid by the amount of products they actually push onto people, right? But make sure that the products they're selling to you will achieve what you want to achieve. So don't just take whatever the financial advisor actually says. You need to still have the financial background in order to test what he's saying and exactly whether it's going to get it there, right? Another way to do it is go on a commission-based payment with your financial advisor. If he gets you to the goals that you get to, then he gets a payment. If he doesn't get you there, he doesn't get a payment, right? So you actually have an option for that. Another thing is always be very careful when it comes to, especially allowing your financial advisor to handle your transactions. You are still responsible for your money in the end, right? So some financial advisors may actually take money and say they're investing on your behalf and don't do that. So you are fully responsible for sorting that part out too. So you need to keep your financial advisor accountable by making sure you are involved in your money. If he says he's investing on your behalf, you must actually be able to pull out the statements and see that money in that account. So just always keep your financial advisor honest, right? Lastly, credit score. Why do you need a credit score? Why do you need to have debt in order to have a good credit score? Right? It's simple. If I were to say, Kanye, I need 100 rands, right? Please borrow me 100 rands, right? What are the things that you are going to look at before you actually borrow me that money to see if you're going to get it back? One, have I borrowed this person before and have they paid it back? That's the best ever, way to predict if somebody has the ability to pay back the money. Makes sense. That's why you need debt in order to have a good credit score. It's just a human function, right? Now, but with that said, do you need to actually get into serious debt before you get a good credit score? And the answer to that is no. For me to build up my credit score, because they need at least 3 months evidence of a credit score, right, in order for them to place it somewhere, is you need to get something minimal, like a cell phone contract, right? Something that you know you can afford and over-afford, even if the price was to double of that, you'll be able to pay that back. Right? Consistently pay that back. Get a credit card make sure the limit is 500 rands in total, right? And then spend that 500 rands and then bring it back. Another thing is you're actually allowed to do that by law. You can tell your bank that I'm getting a credit card, but my limit needs to be 500 rands fixed. Nothing more, nothing less. You can do it. And I think I do that because if you spend on your credit card, with FNB, you actually get more e-bucks back than if you do it using your check account, right? So that's pretty much how you can manage that. So it's that. So those are the little things that you can do. The only issue is that the moment you get a credit card, the moment they're going to tell you about how, we've got limit on limit on limit on limit that we can actually give you as debt, and you can pay for this, you can pay for that, and you don't have to pay for it in 3 months or something like that. Just don't get into that trap. It's quite a big hole to get in, and it's so difficult to get out. Very possible to get out, but difficult to get out. How do you build a good credit score? Credit score is pay back money on time each month, and pretty much you'll have a good credit score. Another thing that you can do in order to even make it better is pay back more than you're required to pay back on a monthly basis. You will build up a good credit score. Never miss any debit order, never miss anything. Another thing is, if you are going to get a car, do your finances first before you do any insurance quotes on it. Because the more people the more you do a quote on an insurance, the more your insurance checks your credit score. The number of people checking your credit score actually reduces your credit score. And so if you do the insurance checks first, they will inquire into your credit score and then actually reduce your credit score before you even get access to the debt that you need to get for your car. Right? I think there's a few things. Maybe there's some things that you guys can add, because that's my last question. Especially on the credit score that you can do in order to increase that. But yeah, simple. Cool. Thank you.